What is up, you guys? Twintuition Tuesdays. The camera's over here for us today. So it's Twintuition Tuesday, and this is my 365 live series. I forgot to tag 365 live in there, but this is my 365 live series, you guys. I'm going live every single day. Every single day. Hey, Sherry. Every single day until June 2nd, 2021. On Tuesdays, my identical twin sister, Marla, is gonna be joining me. We're riffing on high-level wellness topics because what I realized about 12 years ago when my sister had a breakdown, I realized that wellness is literally just unknown, untapped, that we don't really know what mental wellness is because everyone spends so much time studying mental illness that we actually have mental illness running rampant. It runs rampant, you guys. It's AKA normal. So today we're going to be talking all about self-awareness. Hey, Ken. Hey, Sherry. Aw, thank you. I just said we should take a picture. I'm trying to keep centering it, you guys. I care a little bit more than Marla probably does about this, the way we fit into the frame. Yeah, but today we are going along with that amazing theme of self-awareness, and it's so huge. You guys, one of my favorite YouTubers was talking kind of similar topic around self-awareness, and I was listening to it this morning, and I'm like, this is it's just good stuff. It's amazing when you have the self-awareness to be able to see what's going on behind the scenes. And Marla and I were talking about it a little while ago, and so I'm excited to be talking about it tonight. Hey, Pamela. Hey, whoever else is on, you guys, make sure you say hello. If you are new to my live series, then make sure you type new in the comments below so that I know that you're new. If you're watching the replay, then go ahead and let me know as well. If you're a lurker, go ahead and type lurker in the comments below. All right, but we are going in on self-awareness today, especially as it relates to high-level wellness. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Cool. You guys, so when it comes to high-level wellness, what we don't know is a lot, right? But self-awareness is... Marla, what would you describe self-awareness as?
Just being aware of your feelings and your, preferences and things like that.
And motives too, and probably thoughts. I would add that to it. So all of those things, you guys, it's literally just like your drivers behind the scenes. And so self-awareness is typically associated with wellness. You know, the more self-awareness you have, think about this. If you didn't have the self-awareness to decide what you were going to do when you woke up in the morning, like if you didn't have the self-awareness to know, oh yeah, I have to get ready for work, I have to brush my teeth. So a certain level of self-awareness is just taken for granted. But it's the higher level of self-awareness that really, don't you think so? No?
Yeah.
The highest levels of self-awareness also give us cues to what? Marla, when it comes to high-level self-awareness, you giving me the side eye. What are you thinking?
Oh, I was trying to see where you were looking to see how you're doing really good with that. High level of self-awareness. When to be really well, I think would be where you're able to be aware of your feelings and things like that, and then be able to act accordingly and be able to do well in that way. But
yeah,
I told you before that I had an experience where I was following my gut and I was not doing good.
Yeah. So that's one reason too I want to talk about it today, you guys, because over the course of the 12 years, I have a lot of different memories. Some of them Marla also has, some of them she doesn't, but she had a lot of psychotic breaks where I didn't know where she was. I didn't know what was going on. We kind of either had to find her or try to get help in some way. But even that is hard because if the person is not suicidal or something like that, a lot of times there's really nothing you can do until something happens, something bad happens, or there is police involved. So a lot of those times I just was wondering what exactly was going through her head or what exactly was going on. And I wanted her to talk about self-awareness because I think Marla, I think you have a really interesting take on it because you were actually, I mean, it's kind of a fine line, you guys, between the mind and then also our intuition. And I think you said something really interesting earlier. Can you about just like following thoughts or following intuition? Didn't you said something like that about
Following, you're talking about when I said looking outward for your awareness of things and like what to do as opposed to looking inward, I think would be unhealthy.
Yeah, you guys. So when we're looking outward, then a lot of times that would be what would you consider to be outward, Marla?
Just trying to see what, maybe copying what others are doing, which there is a bit of a thing where that's okay, but just to rely on that more so than your own self is unhealthy.
Yeah. Why do you think it's unhealthy?
I think it is because you don't have you lose touch with yourself and this is what I'm talking about happens with a psychotic episode is you lose touch with yourself. You're trying to follow what something else is seeming to say or mean, and you're on this ride or this experience where you're not in touch with yourself.
So I love the definition, and Nicole has a really good question. Do you want to kind of riff on that a little bit? She said, what is the difference between thoughts and intuition? I think you said something, but can you go into it a little bit deeper?
Your thoughts and your intuition. Your thoughts are just your ideas and things like that, and your intuition is your gut, how you feel.
Yeah. So intuition is a little deeper. I would concur with that. I think a lot of times our thoughts come from conditioning, you guys. Does anybody have ever had like negative thoughts or worry thoughts? A lot of times fearful thoughts are not intuition. And so I think a lot of times people get that mixed up because we don't talk about higher levels of wellness much. We don't talk about how intuition is something that would say like guide a tribe of nomads to water. Intuition is something that you have to have if you're out in the wild, right? So if we look at tribesmen, if we look at cultures that are maybe not as developed as the American culture or as just, I'll say Western culture, because even some of the more developed cultures have more thinking, and then some of the less developed people that live off of the earth, like without as much shelter and things like that, they have to have a high level of wellness. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when you're like out in nature, you have to have a high level of intuition. I think I said wellness. But I mean, they do. But if you look at people who live as tribes people, and a lot of times they have, when someone in their tribe or their culture has a psychotic break, they are shamans. A lot of times in those cultures, they do have less instances of depression. They have almost no instances of mental illness. And we look at why. And it's just because we have a whole lot more thinking in the developed cultures, in the West. And we need the high level of thinking in order to create. But there is a line where it gets to be a hindrance. Don't you think so, Marla?
Yeah, I think it can be possibly a hindrance, but but I don't think of the thoughts so negatively. You're saying that thoughts are conditioned. I don't think of it that way so much, but
sometimes we agree to disagree, you guys. Or sometimes we say what you're going to say, though. You said you don't think it's conditioning?
I don't think it's conditioning. I think of it as your own thinking can be driven by your intuition, I would say, or your feelings, I've heard before, are a reaction to your thoughts, or I think something like that is your reaction to your thoughts. I think I heard something like that before. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I do. I like that. I think, have you ever had a thought and then actually, say that you have a thought like, oh man, it's raining. I don't want to go to work. It's raining right now and I'm loving it. It's raining right now. I don't want to da-da-da. And then you double back and you have a feeling about that. I think a lot of times your feeling can be a confirmation or a contradiction to what your thoughts are. And I do agree that would be kind of where your intuition, that's how your body communicates your intuition. I see a couple comments. I want to read them back. Hey, Stacy. Intuition is like a knowing. Yes, Gina. Yeah, and intuition can be subtle. And so, can you see if since intuition is more of a subtle, and sometimes it can be stronger, but if it's felt in your body, can you see how maybe a certain level of thinking might squash your intuition in terms of what to listen to? Does that make sense? How you might be so focused on thoughts that you could miss your intuition? All right, so I think following intuition might force us to let go of some unhelpful thoughts. Ooh, I like it, Sherry. What do you think about that, Marla?
Again, I am not really so in the mindset that thoughts are something bad, but I'm not really sure. I think that your thoughts are just your ideas or just your interpretation of, could be your interpretation of your intuition, could be a thought. I just don't have that idea.
So you think intuition and thoughts are one and the same?
No, I don't think they're one and the same, but I just think that your thoughts are not necessarily a bad thing, but they could possibly be, I guess, if you're, I guess they could possibly be at times, so, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I think thoughts can be harmful, if you're really hard on yourself, you make a mistake and you keep on thinking oh, I made a mistake. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I hadn't done that. You kind of can ruminate with thinking, and that sometimes can also quelch intuition so that you can't hear it. Nicole says, I think of my situation a long time ago. I knew a need to move. Everyone thought I was crazy. To me, God said, go. Yeah. I mean, that is that can be something that your intuition just, oh, okay. Yeah. I think I would have thought about the not knowing, and I wouldn't have gone. Yeah. I think a lot of times intuition can be like that. Intuition can be like a deep knowing. Intuition can be, your feelings in your body. So if you're not feeling your feelings, then it's going to be really hard to tap into your intuition. So one thing I noticed, and I thought that it was interesting that Marla did say that when you're not tapped into your self-awareness, when you've kind of lost touch with self-awareness, one thing you said was, that you kind of take it with the world just kind of draws you into all kinds of things. It almost reminds me of a fairy tale, like Pinocchio or something. When you get just pulled out into the world and you're doing a whole bunch of things and it's not necessarily anything that you chose or anything you really thought of, you just are kind of getting caught up in everything that's going on. It reminds me of a couple of weeks ago, you guys, it was a few weeks ago. It was right before we started the last boot camp because we're eating healthy. But I was eating a cheat meal and I was thinking that the cheat meal sometimes makes me feel really bad and I actually feel really cloudy headed. And so I can't eat a lot of super greasy food and stuff like that. But I was realizing that there are some people who eat like that all the time. There are some people who eat really horribly all the time. And if you eat horribly all the time, you are going to have a hard time. You okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. If you eat horribly all the time, you're going to have a hard time connecting to, you're going to have a hard time connecting to your intuition. You're going to have a hard time connecting to self-awareness because you almost have such cloudiness in your judgment from the eating different things that it's going to be hard to gauge. And so I almost feel like self-awareness is a gift that you have access to if you are allowing yourself to have a clear enough channel, if you're allowing yourself to take enough care of yourself so that you can access that self-awareness. I think there is a point at which you might really lose track of it. And when it comes to high-level wellness, it's definitely tapping into that self-awareness And I almost am feeling like intuition and self-awareness are like pretty closely tied together. Don't you think so, Marla?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, your awareness of how you feel and, you know, your gut.
Yeah. If you don't have enough self-awareness, you may not even be able to tell how you're feeling in certain situations. And so there are some situations when if you don't even know how you feel about it, it can be really easy to, you know, again, like yesterday, say yes to something that technically would be a no. If you don't have enough self-awareness within to be able to tell that. And so higher levels of wellness, which is virtually unknown in our culture, we don't really see any high level of wellness. But there's lots of mental illness. And since we don't really have a lot of that to see, it's hard to gauge. I think it would definitely, self-awareness might lead to and include psychic abilities. What do you think about that?
I think so. Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah, me too.
Especially if you're unable to tap in and have that level of self-awareness, then how would you even know if you had psychic abilities? You might not even know. You might have it and you would be completely unaware of it.
Yeah, that sounds...
Sounds legit. Marla's like, sounds legit. Sounds legit, you guys. One of the main things that I think can easily be forgotten or just lost track of is that we live in a very developed culture. And in our culture, we have this fine line where we kind of want to balance having enough thinking to be able to like make smart decisions. But then that intuition is the thing that really sets people apart. Intuition is what allows a genius to come through, right? Because if you're really smart and you just know everything that already exists, but you're not self-aware enough to tap into to something that might be above and beyond what already exists, then you're gonna kind of get stuck. You can't go but so high. Where is the smile? Oh, we don't force smiles around here, Nicole.
Okay. I can smile, but...
She says she'll smile for you, though. I don't know. It's so funny because I always worry that you're getting worried because it looks like I'll see your brow kind of I'll be like...
Yeah, I know. I can tell I'm doing that. I don't mean to do that.
Are you okay? So that's why I was like, I don't care if you smile, though, but it is great when you do smile. But yeah, you guys, I want to talk about high level wellness as it relates to self-awareness, because basically here's the deal: you can't really access it without it. And what we've both said, hey Clarence,
Hey.
see, she smiles when people talk, right? So what we both kind of said is that for high levels of wellness, what do you think, Marla?
Yeah, high levels of wellness. I thought of something else. Another thing that someone could look at if they're looking outward instead of inward, and having self-awareness be their guide. Another thing someone could look at is the approval of others. And I know that's something that's more familiar or that's heard of. More, likely is that you would pay attention to other people's approval, and that's not good. I think that's kind of a common idea, or an idea that's pretty popular or well known of. But that's another thing where you could be looking outward. That's one example of something.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. We actually talked a little bit about that yesterday, and that's a good point. Like, if you don't have the self-awareness to know when you are doing validation seeking or approval seeking, then those behaviors will run rampant. You have no control. You'll notice afterwards, but without the self-awareness to see them as they're happening, you can't do anything. You can't make a different choice. So actually there's something too that I've seen Stephen Covey say, and he said that there's a space between stimuli and response. And so you want to be responsible. I got that from him. Response able. So if you're unable to respond unless you have enough self-awareness to respond, most people just react. And if you're reacting, that's worry, that's fear, that's hiding, that's low self-confidence, that's approval seeking, right? Mm-hmm. That's not high-level wellness. That is normal. Those things are normal. So higher levels of self-awareness are 100% tied to high levels. High-level wellness is 100% tied to high levels of self-awareness. And Nicole has a good question. What do you think, Marla, as far as developing or growing your self-awareness muscle? How do you think, what are some things you think, what has helped you grow your self-awareness? Because you were telling me about it earlier. You can actually share that because that was interesting.
Just being aware of your feelings, not ignoring them, not ignoring how you feel could help with your self-awareness, I would say. But I'm not really sure.
I feel like journaling's good, Nicole. Marla has increased her self-awareness. You were telling me earlier about why you won't have another.
Yeah, it's because I examine stuff that's happened, and I figure out what happened is I examined things that were happening, and I thought about what I really wanted, and so I pay attention more to what I felt, and what I felt with the episodes was I was doing things I didn't want to do, and so I decided that I wouldn't do that anymore, is do things I didn't want to do, and so that did help me.
You guys, that's really powerful. So what she's saying is that self-reflection, so looking back at what happened and deciding that she didn't want to do that anymore. So self-reflection is huge. So that's actually a really good way, Nicole, to grow your self-awareness muscle, is to look back, reflect. Look back at your experience. Is it something that you want more of? Is it something that you want less of? Self-reflection is huge if you want to transform yourself in your future. And the best way to transform your future is to transform yourself. So if you never self-reflect, then you're not going to be able to have that self-awareness.
I think another thing, like what I said, was not to ignore how you feel. I think that should help too. I mean, to pay attention to how you feel and try to act on it as opposed to something else.
Yeah. Paying attention to your feelings, huge. And it's really funny because we've been through a lot together where we learned to kind of suppress feelings or suppress what's going on and just kind of move on, and that's probably some of the hardest stuff in my life, was just not paying attention to what was going on, just having to show a face, especially I can remember a couple things that fall into that category. Like when our dad passed away, we didn't really talk about it, because death is just something that everybody's afraid to talk about in our culture. If you navigate that well, you're a real one, because that can be tough to navigate, Talking about feelings is hard. For a lot of people, it's just something that we don't do. As far as expressing emotions, largely in the Western culture is suppressed, and it can be really unhealthy. That's probably what leads to the normal level of mental illness. So let me see here. Nicole says, yes, self-reflection is so powerful. Agreed. Yeah. What she said, you guys, is really powerful. She's had the psychotic episodes, and having the reflection on, hey, I don't want to do that anymore. That is self-awareness. That's flexing that self-awareness muscle. That's what allows it to grow. Okay, good. Nicole says her brain is having a challenging day today. Nice for being honest. You said my left eye, left brain isn't in sync with each other. They are fighting with each other. Okay. Thought I was losing my mind. So glad to hear. That is interesting. I haven't heard that before. All right, you guys. So Marla, anything you want to say in closing? If you guys don't have any questions, if you have questions, pop them below and we can answer them now or even later. Even if you're watching the replay. If you are watching this, go ahead and like the video, leave us a comment, ask a question if you have a question. Marla, what do you want to? Do you have anything for closing?
I think that your inner processes of things is really important. And to me, it is really interesting. It makes things so much more interesting to be able to hear about some things that people are thinking and feeling and things like that. So this was a good topic to me. I think it's really interesting to take a look at your inner processes, how you feel, what you think of, and things like that. And be able to use it somehow. I mean, I think it makes for a good book. Is something that I remember a long time ago. I thought a book was really good because I was able to hear about the inner processes of the main character and and it was in contrast to others in the book. The book I'm talking about is Red Badge of Courage, is the book I read in school where I was really interested in that the inner processes could be talked about. I felt like that was something I wanted to do, was to talk about inner processing and different stuff that was going on that you didn't necessarily see on the surface.
Yeah.
So I think this was a good topic. It's really interesting to think about what you're feeling and stuff like that, and try to use it to change, or use it to guide your behavior more.
Love that. I have talked about that in other blogs. I remember when Marla read Red Badge of Courage, and that was when she decided she wanted to be a writer, and so I love that. And so I just will recap, just kind of can see, really hear what she's saying is that hearing self-expression is powerful, and I 100% agree. Like, hearing an honest version of someone's inner self-expression is always powerful, and it's such a great way to connect with people. And that's one reason why we're doing this series, to talk about high levels of mental wellness, because it's virtually non-existent in our culture. And then the other reason why is because there's such a stigma around mental illness. And in order for something to change, it has to be brought out to the light. It can't be left to fester. We're seeing that right now in this country with racism. We're seeing that right now, that when we don't talk about certain things, they just fester, and they don't really get better. So talking about your viewpoints, start allowing your own self-expression out, and allowing yourself to talk about something, even if it's hard, is really important. And it's such a great gateway for connection. So I hope that you hear that and know that self-awareness is required for that. You can't express yourself. You can't talk about your viewpoints if you don't have a healthy level of self-awareness. And self-awareness is super, super healthy. It's super healthy. It's not really, we don't talk about it a lot in our culture, but it's powerful, okay? I don't really have anything else. Do you have anything else? Good tidbits, I like it.
But it was a very good topic.
Yeah, I like that. Cool, you guys. So I am popping off. As you know, we'll be back next Tuesday. I have something starting on Thursday, October 1st. You guys, it is the beginning of Mindfully Free. I still have spots open. It's an amazing program. It's for you if you're ready to change your life. The shift is here, 2020. It is the huge shift in consciousness that everybody's been talking about. There are enough people with the level of awareness and consciousness at this point that there's a tipping point. A lot is about to change. A lot is already underway in change. And if you want to be a part of that and really use your gifts, your voice, your expression to impact that, then get in my inbox. I have spots still open in Mindfully Free. It's for you if you're ready to change your life and have full-on expression and be a part of this shift that is going down. Going down. Oh, and I also have Strong Mind, Strong Body in November. It's focused on metabolism, so you can message me about that too. There's spots in both. All right, you guys, I'm popping off. I will see you tomorrow for 365 live show. Bye. And then me and Marla will be back on next Tuesday for Twintuition Tuesdays. Peace. Bye.